Hello and welcome to the Outvertising Awards. My name's Jamie and I'll be your mixologist for the evening. Using the bar spoon, we want to get all of the ingredients from the bottom of the glass right up to the top, which is this one, our raspberry mojito. Thanks very much for making these drinks with me. I hope you enjoyed making them and drinking them as much as I've enjoyed showing you. Cheers and enjoy the awards.
Welcome to the 2020 Outvertising Awards. My name's Jerry Dakin, and I'm your host for this evening. Channeling some serious Lady Gaga at the MTV Music Award vibes, I think we can all agree. Tonight is an award show. We have awards to give out, but it's not an award show as most marketers would know it. We're here not just to announce a series of winners, we're here to celebrate the progress of a whole industry, to learn a lesson from the trailblazers leading the way, and to hear from a whole spectrum of perspectives on how marketers can better understand, talk to, and support the LGBTQ+ community. Before we get stuck into that, one quick elephant in the room to address. What exactly is an outvertising? An outvertising is a voluntary organisation supporting the LGBTQ+ people working in marketing and advertising, and encouraging the industry as a whole to be more positive and progressive in how it represents our community and its communications. Now, we've taken that essence and energy, but found a unique new way to bring it to life, which has come about in partnership with 1 Minute Briefs. We've actually worked with them now on 2 briefs over the past few months, designed to inspire the industry to action and show brands what could be possible.
So the first brief, which was about creating posters to encourage the creative industry to be more inclusive of the LGBTQ+ community. We have Sam Henning, Natasha Beecher, and Nick Entwistle.
It's really good for us to be able to learn from it as a community, and obviously when we're putting stuff out there ongoing in the future, we'll always have those learnings in mind.
There were a lot of rainbows, shall we say, applied to logos and lots of, you should be talking to the rainbow but sort of, to answer the brief, why should they be doing that? And the best really brought that out, but did it in a compelling kind of creative way.
Yeah, it's quite obvious to me, at least, when a piece of work is based on kind of an authentic, well understood insight or not. And I think we see a lot of the overuse of rainbows in our community already. And yeah, we're just used to seeing them come from brands, and it tends to come across, whether it's intended or not, it can come across as lazy or performative kind of rainbow washing that goes hand in hand with doing it just for Pride Month and not doing anything further than Pride Month. So I think that the work that we did see worked well. The ones that featured rainbows, at least, did so in kind of a clever, subtle way.
And actually, to that point, the reason we have Sam on as well is because in the social, I actually held him up for his journey. He really took us through a series of submissions early on in the day through towards the end, which was terrific to see. It was what we've termed you talking to me, why not? And we went from there through to what we call the black and white lips.
I was a massive fan of this one. I am a massive fan of this one. I think it's particularly when you look at the starting point and where you got to. It's and this is one of the things about this awards as well. This particular awards was we were able to kind of see that progression as well.
Because obviously this is like a subject that's really important, and I think it's something we've been kind of discussing quite a lot in my agency actually as well. And so when this brief came up, it just seemed really timely with what we'd been discussing a lot. And so I was really keen to kind of get involved straight away and start thinking of some ideas. But unfortunately, and probably because of what Natasha was saying about what we see so commonly from brands being kind of, the rainbow and kind of quite easily jumping into stereotypes, that's kind of, I think that's kind of where I first went, just in terms of almost just trying to get the message across like as powerfully and as quickly as possible. And then actually I got to this creative that you can see on the right, and I felt that it was really important to kind of use a close up rather than kind of any. You can't read anything from that image on its own, and I think, or what you can read isn't necessarily what you might think.
We actually managed to get some of the shortlist promoted in outdoor across the country in the last week or two. And I've been seeing on Twitter you sharing them and people finding them across everywhere.
It's absolutely amazing the actual coverage that it's got from Clear Channel. So obviously a huge, massive thanks to them. But when you actually look at these things on the billboards and things, they're so clear and simple that they are getting that message out there to so many people very quickly.
I'd like to introduce the first honourable mention, drumroll, by the judges, which was what we called Alphabet by Alvo Muses, or at Alvo Muses. And moving on to the next honourable mention, which was Reframe by Pulp Ideas. Next image, yes, we go. To announce the winner, I'm very honoured to say, with the next image, that it's actually Sam. So we were teasing a bit with showing his journey, but he very, very much deserves the title for this one because it was resounding. There was winner across all touch points.
I think it is just that thing of really being aware of what's out there already and what other people have done, and making sure that you don't you try to be as aware as you possibly can.
We came up with a poster or a brief, essentially just to create posters that re-envisage current or past ads campaigns to be more inclusive. I'd actually like to introduce you another 3 of our panelists, talk about this second brief. And we have Pete, Rachel and Emma, because there's a difference between a Pride ad and showing solidarity with the community and then versus actually making an ad that's inclusive. And ultimately, the biggest change that we can do is making just all ads inclusive and not making it an LGBTQ plus ad, just inclusive ads.
The trans and non-binary representation was much more clever and subtle and much less in your face with a custard pie.
For me, it just showed how simple it is to make even the slightest change to your creative work and the level of impact it can have. So some of the work we'll see in a minute, actually, these are subtle differences, but powerful differences.
They did these small tweaks, but they were really intrinsic things to who the brands are. So really committing to change and not just doing, that Pride Month rainbow flag that you were talking about.
All the ones that rose to the top made changes to the brand that were credible for that brand to do. So if they were homely values, they were homely values just with a different representation from what their heteronormatives that they would use as a default. But we're going to highlight the 2 honourable mentions. Again, all terrific, lots of debate with this one because there was just so many, it was really hard to narrow it down. But the first one I'd like to highlight is the Lego one by Paper Jam Create.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of healthy discussion around this because I actually ended up coming around a bit more. I think Rachel had some great points on the imagery used in the shadows.
That's the thing where a series helped as well, because then you're not limited. There could be a couple of the one on the right with different versions of what a man shadow should be, or the whole spectrum. And the second honourable mention, if we could pull that up now, is Mont Blanc.
I love, because normally the black and white, the Mont Blanc is a black and white imagery of a guy, and this was Katie Lang, and then I loved it because it was very androgynous. So it was like, wow, this is really pushing a lot of boundaries here.
It's so simple but so lovely, isn't it? And so impactful. And I think that word legend, I think it just brings that across with clearly picking Katie Lang to front it. So it's very clever, really great work by Sam.
Yeah, for the future, remember your audience. Remember your audience, because this is what I do all day. But 12% of millennials identify as non-binary, and Gen Z, that's going to be 20%. So that's your audience.
So if you're actually seeing yourself and you're you recognize your family or you or your partnerships. You know, it's really important to see that.
I think hopefully inspiring some of the brands featured by these people to show how little tweaks can make such a big difference. We're actually going to hand over to the chair of the judges to announce the winner for this. This is for the Accelerator Awards because it's actually reimagining how a brand could do differently.
Congratulations to the winner. It's John Suné, and it's That's Why My Mums Go to Iceland. The judges loved this ad because it was just such a simple change that made it much more inclusive and in effect completely made us think differently about the brand.
My submission was pretty simple, in fairness. I mean, I only added 2 letters to the original concept. However, it managed to turn an advert that was previously withdrawn for not being inclusive enough into what is now an award-winning advert all about inclusivity.
The great thing to know if you're a marketer is that not only does positive representation help you tap into the huge opportunity that is the pink pound, there's also research to show that the population at large responds better to more progressive advertising and actively so to more emotional and distinctive narratives. Now, pride. Pride is a concept at the heart of the LGBTQ+ community. It's a concept of having pride in yourself, whoever you are, whoever you love, because whoever you love and whoever you are is awesome. It's a movement, it's a day, it's a flag, celebration, it's a protest, and it's a riot. And pride means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And to get our heads around that, we've asked some of the extended advertising community for their perspectives. Well, what about marketing? That's what we're here to talk about after all. What's the role of brands at Pride? Are they helping amplify it and make it bigger? Or is it shameless commercialization to see them there? Are they giving their employees a platform to represent or using it just to tick a CSR box? There are many different perspectives on what brands should or shouldn't do around Pride, and the only real consensus is that they could probably all do a lot more. Personally, I do think that even turning up is a start, that turning your logo rainbow or launching a rainbow sandwich isn't as easy or as shameless a cash-in as people sometimes think. And in fact, such positive normalization is hugely important. But like I say, not everyone agrees. Go over to some of our friends to tell us what Pride does still mean to them and what role they see brands playing within it.
Pride's really important to me, most importantly because I want to be able to refer to my girlfriend as my girlfriend and not like I'm in a relationship with a law firm and call her my partner or my other half.
I think it's incredibly important to keep celebrating Pride because increased visibility means increased comfort in coming out and being oneself.
It's about our political beginnings. It's about standing up for the continued oppression.
To feel part of an LGBTQ+ family and knowing that we are there to celebrate love.
It's honestly the first time in my life I've been in a space with so many people that look like me, that love like me, that share my experience.
It's only in recent years that we've really been celebrating the intersectionality, for example. But trans, bi, pan, all these different communities.
Bisexuality is, by its nature, tricky to celebrate at Pride and also hard to portray in ads.
But if you're not actually doing the work and going into the community and doing work to help and better the community or the conditions for the community, then what you're doing is ultimately quite pointless.
Speak to us and engage with us throughout the year, either them being present in our publications or having people that look like us and love like us in their ads.
Making more events available, not just during Pride, but throughout the year. And knowing it's a safe place to work and a safe space to work in.
As for companies, just turning up works for me. It's a foot on the ladder, and I believe that they'll get higher up that ladder as time goes by.
There's some lovely examples at the moment out there where there are members of the LGBTQ+ plus community featuring in advertising, and it's great to start to see that representation.
It's time to get involved with conversation and really understand these groups if you really want to support them, and show up and actually be allies. And also remember that ally is a verb. You need to do something. You can't just listen, you need to participate, take action.
We have to be visible. We shouldn't be ashamed of who we are.
When we rise, it's about community, it's about love.
Telling our stories is a revolutionary act.
Dance like nobody's watching, nobody's judging who you love. Dance like nobody's watching, nobody's judging who you love.
But let's not forget that Pride happens in hundreds of cities, towns, or even villages across the country and across the world. Now, I'm very excited to be able to announce the next big winner of the night. And the winner of the Outvertising Award for Best Pride Activation is going to be announced after a few minutes break, I'm afraid. Welcome back. How are we all doing? Did you catch that recipe? You have 5 minutes to note it down, so hopefully you've got everything you need for an espresso martini now. We'll be having Jamie back for a live cocktail class. It's back over to the chair of our judges, Stephen.
And the winner of Pride Activation of the Year is Sprite.
Golden sky and the sweet silver song of love. Walk on through the rain. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you never walk
Santiago Conietchat from the Sprite team sent me the following message to accept their award. Hello everyone, we are really grateful for this award. It is a huge recognition to the Coca-Cola Company's principles of diversity and inclusion around the world.
Now, of course, I don't stop being a gay man when Pride season is over. Part of my identity and my world throughout the year, as it is for all members of the LGBTQ plus community. And I think one of the clearest messages to brands is exactly that we're here all year and we want to hear from you and be represented by you all year. We like to think of the world making constant progress towards progressive ideals and equality, but increasingly that isn't the case. In Poland, in the US, and of course in countless countries where LGBT rights are greatly diminished, things seem to be going in the wrong direction. Here in the UK, a coordinated lobby against our trans brothers and sisters is edging closer to undoing years of gradual progress, making it practically and legally harder to be a trans person in this country. But I'm excited to be joined now by Joanne Oates.
Yes, this panel's called I'm Here and I'm Queer. It should be called I'm Here and I'm Queer and I'm Here all year. On the panel, we'll have Chris and Polly and Deborah, who are all joining now. Fantastic to see you guys. Inclusive advertising should be for life and not just for Pride Month, which is obviously something we advocate for at Outvertising.
Well, yeah, it's become commercial imperative now. It's sort of don't do it and die, quite literally, you know. COVID, Black Lives Matter, what's going on in Poland and other Eastern European countries has just made firstly made consumers say, you know, what brands am I buying? Where am I putting my money?
Deborah, can I come to you next?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the kind of biggest examples are actually from Unilever, and on Ben & Jerry's specifically, they've done a lot, not just in Pride, but also for the Black community as well. So when you think about those two things coming together, they've been there from well before these events of this year, they have been championing the cause.
When I think of when I started at Pride and everybody just literally wanted to come in for Pride season, and now it's really interesting to see brands go throughout the year. I think Transport for London does really well, and I think throughout the year they tend to put their Pride posters up, and there tends to be messaging continuously around the year. So I think they do a really good job. It's being on all year round for your internal employees, so when you go into work you feel supported, and it's supporting policy. So whether that's around the Gender Reform Act, or whether that's around supporting new initiatives like Trans Awareness Week, I think it's been great to see brands getting behind that.
We're a broad spectrum, and there's a lot of things that brands can get involved with. It's not just the 1 month for Pride. I think that's the important thing. In terms of what the steps they can take to find out more about what they can do. Obviously, read the advertising guide. That's a great first thing. There's loads of resources out there. We have a podcast which I host for advertising, and both Chris and Polly have been on it, and Deborah will get you on soon, I'm sure.
Get these voices on the inside of your work walls. Go out and employ these people. LGBTQ plus people have so much to offer a business, to push to a diversity of thought, just a different perspective, and bringing their world learnings together and helping to give, better creative, better media insight, better life insight. You get the same from Black, Asian, multi-ethnic people as well. But, going through, it's not, don't give the job to a straight person, give it to an LGBT person. Just go out and chuck that net out wide enough to that these people know you've got a job, and then make the inside, makes the workplace inclusive enough that they want to stay.
Make sure that you're working with people, whether they are in your employ or whether you are outsourcing to them, however you engage with them. Make sure that they are working to the same standards you are, and make sure your standards are high. Just have different people in your cohort so you can create much nicer voices, much nicer material.
I would say before you go out there with an advert, have a look internally and say, do I have gender neutral toilets? Am I making it an inclusive workplace?
5 months ago, Black bus driver was called low skilled. Indian lady in Tesco's was called low paid. Now they're called key workers.
Keep up the momentum. I think anything you started, especially if you started it as a knee-jerk reaction to recent events or anything that you're doing behind LGBTQ, really mean it and stick with it.
Don't always use the usual candidates. So think about butch women, think about people with disabilities who are also gay. I think sometimes it can feel a bit stereotypical when you see some of the ads and you think, well, that's what everybody thinks I look like, and that's not what I look like.
I'm Joanne Oates, and I think I'm handing back to Jerry now.
We're getting into our final lap now. So back to the Matter of Awards.
And the winner is Renault Clio, 30 years in the making.
Said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall.
The all-new Renault Clio, 30 years in the making.
And this, we felt, also was a big part of the brand's effort. This wasn't just a one-off ad or a piece of casting as part of a series of vignettes. This story was absolutely central about this couple and their journey through life.
This is a huge honour, campaign of the year. We're all stoked. But a huge praise and the biggest thanks has got to go to Renault UK for backing the story and allowing the story to be told in the purest form, all the trials and tribulations that go with love and life.
And we had another special award that we wanted to give to recognise Starbucks for another beautifully told story. And again, I defy anybody to watch this and not be moved by it.
Really great stuff all round, and that Clio advert has brought a lot of joy to the advertising WhatsApp group. sparked a bit of a debate as well as to whether it's actually a rare telling of a bisexual story or perhaps just the bittersweet story of a lesbian couple who are almost separated by society's expectations. And if you haven't seen that Starbucks ad, I'd look it up straight away after it. It won the Channel 4 Diversity and Advertising Award, and it's a powerful story about the reality of dead naming in the trans community. It isn't just about giving out awards, it's also about learning from the process. We've learned from the creatives, we've learned from the community, we're learning from the winners, and now finally we're going to learn from the judges.
What I learned from being a judge was just the fact there's some amazing work out there, some really inspirational work that's pushing the boundaries and showing really clearly that there's a great way to include and represent the LGBT community in advertising.
I really enjoyed being a judge this year. I really enjoyed the experience of immersing myself in all the entries. It really helped me learn what was authentic, what were authentic entries, to what felt a little bolt on.
I learned from being a judge at this year's Outvertising Awards really how far and how fast the sort of creative community is moving in terms of how it integrates LGBTQ role models into advertising.
It needs to be cleverly incorporated to feel more authentic, and it needs to be backed up by action.
It's been all about pushing boundaries, all about getting great work out there that makes a real difference and properly represents the fantastic LGBT community.
And there's always that fantastic process, I think, of challenging each other and seeing how, in a sense, the initial voting changes through discussion and debate.
Whereas now in the work I'm seeing through the Outvertising Awards is genuine, heartfelt, fantastic work where LGBT plus characters are central to the story. They're part of the narrative.
And that brings us to our final award to hand out before we all go, well, to the after party. And that's the Outvertising Brand of the Year Award. And it's given to a brand which the judges think have been consistently great at engaging and representing the LGBTQ plus community. And so one final time, I'll pass you over to the chair of our judges to explain the winner that they have chosen.
And we're delighted to announce that the brand of the year for this year's Outvertising Awards is McCain's.
When it comes to love, what's normal? Normal isn't normal. Love doesn't care about gender, where you're from, or what others may think. It won't judge you on ability or so-called disability. It won't age, fade, or hold a grudge when you mess up or pay the burger buns. Love will stand by you, sit beside you, cross-legged on the couch with you, sharing plates, private jokes, and comfortable silences. Here's to every kind of love and every kind of special night in. McCain, we are family.
It's a fantastic advert, but one of the things I love about McCain is that they've actually been at this for several years now, consistently telling diverse stories. In fact, I remember a fantastic show they put on at the National Portrait Gallery celebrating the diversity of British life. And we're very excited to be joined by Chloe and Jess from the McCain team at Adam and Eve DDB to accept their award.
We feel proud and extremely honoured to be named the Outvertising's Brand of the Year. We hope to continue to make work that champions the diversity of modern Britain and gives representation to the LGBTQ+ community.
Hopefully sooner rather than later, it will be a given that all sexualities and orientations are equally represented and seen, as it should be. Thanks everyone.
Well, I'm sure you're clapping and applauding along at home, even if we cannot sadly see your smiling faces yet. They've reached the end of the night.
Like, what an amazing evening. Great chat. Jamie's cocktails, Jerry's costume changes, and of course, congratulations to all of our winners, finalists, and entrants. The reason I got involved with the Outvertising Awards was to craft a celebration of great work and to share learnings, to help educate the industry from the inside out. I also really want to thank our supporters, Facebook, for your generous support for this evening's event, and so much more. And finally, thank you for joining us tonight. And now I'm going to hand back to Jerry, our host with the most.
Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next year, or see you in 2 minutes.